Prosecutors are hiding evidence that could set innocent people free. And it is completely legal. The Brady rule was supposed to fix this. But 60 years later, the system is still broken. In 1958, John Brady and his accomplice Charles Boblet murdered a man named William Brooks in Maryland. Brady confessed to being part of the crime but insisted Boblet was the actual killer. His lawyers asked prosecutors for all of Boblet's statements. They received some documents. But one critical piece of evidence was missing. A confession where Boblet admitted he alone strangled Brooks. That single document could have meant the difference between life and death for John Brady. The prosecutor knew it existed. And he chose to hide it. But here is where it gets strange. This was not some rogue attorney acting alone. This was standard practice across America. Throughout the 1940s and 50s, American prosecutors operated under one principle: win at all costs. There were no rules requiring them to share evidence that might help the defense. If a witness recanted their testimony, prosecutors could bury it. If forensic evidence pointed to another suspect, they could ignore it. Defense attorneys were left fighting blind. And the results were devastating. Innocent men and women went to prison. Some went to their deaths. The legal system had become a game where one side knew all the cards and the other was playing in darkness. If this is already making you question everything you thought you knew about justice, drop a like. Because what happened next would shake the Supreme Court itself. Now imagine you are John Brady, sitting in a cell, knowing somewhere out there exists proof you did not commit the murder. Your appeals fail one after another. Maryland courts say the hidden confession would not have changed the verdict anyway. But your lawyers refuse to give up. They push the case all the way to Washington. And in 1963, something remarkable happens. The Supreme Court agrees to hear your case. 9 justices who had seen thousands of appeals decide this one matters. What happened next defies all logic. Because the man who hid the evidence, he faced no consequences whatsoever. The court was about to create a rule that would change American justice forever. But that rule had a fatal flaw. On May 13, 1963, Justice William Douglas delivered the opinion. The suppression of evidence favorable to an accused violates due process. Those words created what we now call the Brady Rule. Prosecutors must turn over any evidence that could help the defense. This was revolutionary. For the first time, the Constitution itself required fairness in prosecution. But here is the problem nobody talks about. The ruling came with no teeth. If a prosecutor hides evidence and gets caught, the conviction might be overturned. But the prosecutor themselves, almost never punished. No jail time. No disbarment. Often not even a reprimand. The fox was still guarding the henhouse. And this is where the story takes its darkest turn. But that is not even the worst part. For decades after Brady, prosecutors kept hiding evidence. And innocent people kept going to prison. In 1986, a Texas woman named Christine Morton was murdered. Her husband Michael was convicted based on circumstantial evidence. The prosecutor had evidence pointing to another suspect. A bloody bandana found near the scene. Witness statements about a suspicious van. A report that the couple's 3-year-old son said daddy was not home when mommy was hurt. All of it hidden. Michael Morton spent 18 years in prison for a crime he did not commit. Think about that for a second. 18 years. If you want to see how this story ends and what happened to the real killer, make sure you are subscribed. In 2011, DNA testing finally proved what Michael Morton knew all along. The blood on that bandana belonged to a convicted felon named Mark Norwood. A man who went on to kill another woman while Morton rotted in prison. The prosecutor who hid the evidence. Ken Anderson had become a judge by then. For the first time in Texas history, a prosecutor faced criminal charges for a Brady violation. What happened next shocked everyone. Anderson pleaded no contest. His punishment? 10 days in jail. He served 5 days for stealing 18 years of a man's life and allowing a killer to roam free. Drop your prediction in the comments. Do you think 5 days was justice? And this is why the Brady rule remains both a triumph and a tragedy. It established that prosecutors have a constitutional duty to seek justice, not just convictions. But without meaningful enforcement, that duty becomes optional. Studies suggest Brady violations occur in up to 1/4 of wrongful conviction cases. The Innocence Project has documented hundreds of cases where hidden evidence led to innocent people losing years of their lives. I want you to remember this part. The system relies on prosecutors to police themselves, to voluntarily hand over evidence that might lose them the case. Some do it honorably. Others do not. And when they do not, the consequences fall on the innocent. Today, reform advocates push for stronger penalties and better oversight. Some jurisdictions have created conviction integrity units to review old cases. Others require prosecutors to create written records of all evidence disclosed. But the fundamental problem remains. The Brady rule asks those with power to limit their own power. And that rarely works as intended. John Brady got a new sentencing hearing. He spent the rest of his life in prison anyway. Michael Morton was freed but lost his wife, his son's childhood, and 18 years he will never recover. The question is not whether we have rules against hiding evidence. The question is whether those rules have any meaning when they are broken without consequence. Now you know the truth about the Brady rule. A constitutional promise that prosecutors must play fair. And a system that too often lets them break that promise without consequence. The next time you hear about a conviction, ask yourself, what evidence did we never see? If this changed how you think about justice, subscribe for more stories the system does not want you to know. What case should we investigate next? Tell me in the comments.